Now, while I was in Israel recently, I was asked by some Israeli friends how they thought the elections would turn out in America this fall. My response was that Republicans will win in a blowout unless they fail to come up with a cohesive message other than, hey, we aren't those guys who doubled your gas prices, jacked up your groceries by 20%, and who opened the borders to illegals but busted the supply of baby formula. Yeah, it's got to be more than that, although that might just win this year. The policies of the leftist Democrats have finally become untenable for common sense loving Americans who, unlike Joe Biden's recent nominee to the Supreme Court, do know what a woman is. Yeah, not that difficult. Now, the Democrats have gone into a wild, irrational rage about abortion, calling it health care for women, even though at least one person dies every time there is an abortion. They claim that 4- and 5-year-old children ought to be taught about gender fluidity before they even learn their numbers, colors, and letters of the alphabet. But most Americans know that's not just bad policy, it's insanity. And working-class Americans have grown tired of the elitists from Hollywood and Washington lecturing about climate change and carbon footprints when the same hypocritical snobs fly around the globe in fuel-sucking, carbon-emitting private jets and then upon landing, ride in long black limousines while owning 4 or 5 homes, telling us how we ought to cut our carbon output. Well, the demands to tax more don't go over well with anyone who owns a business or who's trying to just get kids to school each day and feed them each evening. But Republicans need to focus on what they will stand for if given the majorities in the House and Senate. Now, keep in mind, even if the GOP takes both houses, they're not going to be able to pass legislation much because Joe Biden isn't likely to sign anything that makes energy cheaper, houses more affordable, or our borders more secure. Biden's party still wants to pursue truly crazy policies like critical race theory that indoctrinates school children to believe that all white children are evil and they're all oppressors and that our nation is systemically racist and bad, despite that it's the one place on earth where people of every color risk their very lives to get to because they believe America is still a great country where freedom and opportunity awaits them. Now, Republicans, they ought to tell America that if elected, they will pursue the following things and then force Joe Biden to either sign the legislation or to explain to struggling Americans why not. Number 1, we will finish the border wall, enforce immigration laws, and stop the flow of deadly drugs and human trafficking of small children to become sex slaves for the drug cartels. Number 2, we'll support our military by giving them leaders who believe that a military being deadly is more important than being diverse. And that means that people get promoted because they're the best, not because they're the right color, the right gender, or sexual identity. And number 3, we will value all life from conception because we just don't think that any human life is disposable or expendable. Number 4, we'll work toward a completely different tax system, like the fair tax, where we pay taxes on what we consume, not what we produce. And we ought to get rid of the death tax and capital gains taxes because we ought not to punish productivity. Number 5, we'll follow the Constitution and allow the states to govern themselves without the federal government mandating the minutia. Number 6, we will not tolerate violent crime and letting killers and thugs back on the streets to repeat their attacks on law-abiding public. We ought to have an expectation to walk in our neighborhoods, ride a subway or bus, or get from a car to the front door of a grocery store without being assaulted. Number 7, we will renew energy independence by restarting the Keystone XL pipeline, restart drilling on federal lands, and extracting the oil and natural gas that's under our own feet, and restarting a long-term nuclear energy capacity. Hey, the country is in a mess. And while Biden and the Democrats blame Putin or blame Trump or anyone but themselves, we all know they own the results of their policies. But we, the people, we own the elections with our votes. And the country doesn't belong to the politicians, but to the people. Always has, always will.